Sam House Money Hauser sizzles in his first career start. Jason Tatum comes alive in the second half to deliver a win against a subpar team. Not a luxury we've been able to enjoy as often as we'd like this season. We're going to talk all about it next on First to the Floor.
Who's going to be first to the floor here? And it was Marcus Smart, as he usually is.
Brown drives.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice his body.
Garnett knocked away.
Hey, welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well, which I'm sure you are, as the Celtics managed to defeat, like I said, a subpar opponent for once, for the first time in what feels like forever. Just an end-to-end, for the most part, with the exception of the fourth quarter, a decisive win against the team they should beat. Joining me, Wayne Spooney, Jake Eisenberg. Spooney, we'll start with you. How you doing, sir?
Good. Hey, the Pistons, they give us a hard time, dude. I'm not, you can't take them lightly. They got a lot of talent if they're horribly coached, but not horribly coached, just young, inexperienced. But I was scared going in, so I'm glad they pulled it out.
I'm always scared. Jake, how are you, buddy?
Thank God. Thank you. Just thank you for winning the game, please. That would have been a very upsetting next 2 days. So our lives are, marginally better for the next 48 hours at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get into the game, just a heads up, we are live streaming the trade deadline. We're going to get started at about 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's 6 a.m. Aussie East Coast time, so like an hour before the actual deadline. I know, we're going to get up super early. I'm going to be in like the recess under my house. I've got a green screen I'm going to set up there. It's a whole deal, so stream in to see that, if nothing else. Yeah, so we're going to have a big screen up on the live stream with all the tweets from all your big gun newsbreakers, your Wojers, your Shams, etc. We'll be reacting to all the news of the day through the lens of, I guess, how that impacts the Celtics. So come and join us for that one, 6 p.m. I guess that's Thursday night there for you folks on the East Coast of the USA. Spooney, let's get back to the Pistons game here. What were your main takeaways from this one?
Obviously, Tatum was incredible, and I won't mention the other guy who was incredible because I will allow Jake to do that because I know he's itching to. But one way a bad team can beat you is effort. And I think the biggest effort stat is rebounding. And with Duren, Stu Beef, they have some size and athleticism, and we won the rebounding battle by 7, which I would not have expected going in. I thought that was a huge thing. We kept them off the offensive glass. We had 10 offensive rebounds ourselves, 6 of them from Robert Williams.
Oh, yeah.
That was my big takeaway, what I was worried about.
Man, yeah, Rob and Duren is almost like the Spider-Man pointing at each other meme. They're just both monsters on the glass. And so it was good to see Rob kind of take that battle personally and get 15 boards, 6 of them offensive. Very classic Rob Williams. This is the chosen one imagined. The 15, 2 steals, 2 assists and a block. Great to see that, but it's time to book the hotel room. It's time to
working late.
Working late tonight. The mistress.
Say more.
What a game. What a game by my man, D. White. The mistress did everything we needed from him tonight. As, again, your emergency point guard can give you 23, 7 and 7 with elite D for 37 minutes.
1 turnover.
And that's exactly what you need. And it was timely as well. Early, the offense was a little clunky and, getting to the basket and ones, dunking and one. I think 3 and ones in this game.
Yeah.
An absurdly big 3, about 4 or 5 minutes to go. Has to be the MVP of the game outside of Tatum, obviously. But D. White from start to finish was getting the ball moving, getting everybody involved, playing defense, doing all the things that I love about him.
We saw him pull a few new items out of his bag as well. He had that one, the second quarter, back down, post up, and then the fake spin.
Yes.
Back around to his right and a finish over. I think it was a big that he finished over, but just limitless, the skill set, I suppose, which is everything you want in a mistress. Spooney, any other additional thoughts on Derek White?
Yeah, I thought he does this really well when he's the main point guard, but tonight was no exception. He just keeps the pace up. He just keeps the ball moving. It never sticks with him. And he's just such a good decision maker. And defensively, he was everywhere, dude. He was like bothering handles. He was getting into passing lanes. He didn't have a steal, but I thought he was really, really good on the defensive end and got called for a cheapy foul or two as well that I do not think he deserved. So just an incredible performance, team high plus 18. So yeah, just guy's our third point guard. You know what I mean? It's incredible.
Yeah, the depth is ridiculous on this team, and yet I suppose we can get straight into this. Like, I don't mean to shoot too far away in one direction from the game, but fourth quarter looks like it's all done and dusted. Tatum sits. I know we're missing a few starters, but Tatum sits, and that's great because let's put the depth on display. Let's use the rest of our team to bring this one home because we have that depth. And then this bottom line Pistons team, they bring their way back into the game quite quickly, quite easily, just due to the absence of Tatum. Jake, like, what are your thoughts, I guess, like, on that? And then zooming out, do you think overall this was a good performance from the Celtics despite that little pocket of misery in the beginning of the fourth quarter?
It was eerily similar to the Phoenix game in that as soon as Tatum was out, it was just like the lead just evaporated instantly. Like all of a sudden it was single digits. It's like, sure, understandable. We're missing 3 guys. The bench isn't going to be as good tonight. But can we at least tread water? Because Tatum played another 39 minutes again. Like I wrote in the notes, it's just like, where is Tatum? 8 minutes to go in the fourth, he's back. And instantly comes off a pin down, get downhill, help comes, alley-oop to Rob, lead goes back up to 9. And it did get a little dicey from there. I think Killian Hayes hit a ridiculous step back 3 over Tatum the next possession. But as soon as Tatum came back in, it was like, okay, the offense works again. Because the defense I thought with Tatum out was still fine. It's just the offense becomes absolutely rudderless without him out there. And more broadly, was it a good performance from the Celtics? Yes and no. I think. What was the final score? Like 12 or something like
111.99.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess you kind of took care of business. It didn't get below 6 points. As tight as it felt, I didn't actually think that they were going to lose the game at any point. Seeing Sam Hauser come out and break out of his slump, that's something you wanted to see. Big deal to see that because he hasn't had a game like that since what feels like late November. So I think overall the guys you want to see play well played well. It's just the collective of that second unit continues to be something that they're searching for.
Yeah, I think it was a solid performance for the most part. Like against a team like the Pistons, Tatum should be able to coast for the first half of the game, which he absolutely did. I was a little worried about him to begin with. It looked like his feet were stuck in mud there. You should be able to get away without 2 starters. You should be able to start Sam Hauser, who was electric, and for a little bit, we'll talk about. All of those things happened, and the Celtics felt pretty much in control of this game for the most part, outside of that early stretch, that pocket of misery, as I've been calling it lately, to begin the fourth quarter. Now, Spoonie, any additions there?
I thought it was a great performance from the starters and a terrible performance from the bench. I mean, Brogdon, he got some points, but I didn't think he played particularly well. 3 turnovers. Grant was another game to add to sort of the growing list of bad performances.
Game
recently.
low, -11.
Yeah. And Pritchard, just kind of a nothing burger, hit that one nice corner 3, but that's about it. I do like Pritchard's energy. He was kind of hounding Killian Hayes, making it hard for him to get into the offense, which was nice. So I think, but the starters, like Rob won us that game. What do you have? 3 straight offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter, and he got 2 buckets and one of 2 from the line. Like that was an incredible performance from Rob. And, as Bill Sy says in the chat here, shout out Bill. Thanks for stopping in. I just wrote a very, very long piece about Rob that is essentially chapter 1 of a fantasy novel. So go check that out. And one of the things I wanted
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, man. One of the things I want to see Rob do is shoot mid-range jumpers. And he had a few opportunities tonight, and he didn't. Pull the trigger, Rob. You're feeling it. You're going 15-15, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Like, pull the trigger on a midi or something, dude. But Rob was incredible. He was awesome.
He was. He's starting to do it more. He's putting his hand up when he's asking for the ball in the post when he's got a small defender on him. No one even acknowledges his existence when he does do that. But it is a small sign of him starting to look a little bit more for that offense.
I would also add that even when they do, or when they eventually end up acknowledging that hand in the air, their ability to throw an accurate pass to him is very limited.
Missing
to be
smart.
kind about it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's very reminiscent of our ability to not throw lobs for the past 8 years.
Terry Rozier was singing that song very loudly off the top of a mountain once upon a time. Should we get to Sam Hauser? How have we gone 11 minutes and 43 seconds and not talked about Sam Hauser? House party, house money, it's a housing boom. With all the puns, we're bringing them all back out. We're dusting them off. Jake, what are your thoughts on Sam Hauser's game in this one? Is it an anomaly or is it a sign of things to come? I can't believe I'm even asking that, but
he's back, baby. He's back.
Is that it? He's back?
I hope so. There was another the Orlando game, which wasn't that long ago. He also shot really well. There was some games in the middle where he shot much worse, and then he's back today. So I don't know, Ben. I really hope so, because it is crazy how much, and like you talk about, the bench and whatever, but Tatum's life and the offense, 3-Sam, amazing one right there. When Tatum and Hauser are cooking, it's beautiful. They both create a lot of gravity, even though Sam hasn't shot threes well for 10 weeks. People are still closing out pretty hard on him, especially once he started to make one or two. Tatum, we found Hauser for a couple of kickouts, but also Hauser found Tatum after Tatum passed it to him and was able to drive off of the space that Tatum had created. When Hauser's hitting shots, it makes the offense really, really smooth on that second unit. Like when those Tatum and the bench units were just killing everybody, it's because Hauser was going 3 for 4 from 3 or 2 for 5 from 3 every single game. And if he's a good shooter, which we have 4 or 5 years of evidence that he is, he gets really, really clean looks with Tatum out there. And I think we're at a point right now, and we'll find out after the trade deadline. But even if there was no trade deadline, I think you kind of have to go to Hauser over Grant right now, even just to see because Hauser's not scared to fire these bad boys up.
No.
Even when he's letting it go. So I think we're at a point, at least right now in this moment. Grant's defense again, some moments today, which was tough. Hauser got called for a couple of. He does that really nice move where he kind of steps kind of diagonally back to the right or the left, hands up, and guys kind of bounce off him. He got screwed on at least one really bad one today. But the defense has been at least comparable to what Grant's giving you, at least lately. So I think you kind of have to lean Hauser right now, especially off a game like this. If Hauser can come in next game, the Sixers with their poor perimeter defense, you're going to have kick out opportunities. If Hauser can hit some big threes in the Garden, or is it in Philly? Either way, big environment, that could go a long way to rebuilding the confidence of a shooter who are like kickers in the NFL. You just gotta get them back on track for a half, and that could be back.
I don't know about the defense, Jake. He got roasted a couple of times tonight.
Was it worse than Grant's defense today?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was.
Close.
I mean, it is not nearly as big of a gap as it should be, considering how good Grant has been on defense for most of his career. So, but Hauser had some rough ones, man. I think Ivy when Ivy had that huge dunk, Hauser was just in complete no man's land, and he definitely got hit for at least 1 or 2 questionable foul calls. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there, but you just gotta hope that he finds that stroke again, man, because if he's shooting it like that, I'm with you, Jake. Against Philly, how they use how Philly uses George's Niang, it's just you got to stick to him or, move him around a little bit. So when the double comes to Embiid, he's just walking into wide open threes all the time. We can do that type of stuff with Hauser. So it will be yeah, to your kind of greater point, Jake, it sort of starts to make Grant a little bit expendable if Hauser's going to find his game, but I do not trust that he has off of,
No.
one good performance
When we
against
have-
the Pistons.
Yeah, so yeah. And the Magic was the other one I cited.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm concerned if we're having conversations about leaning on Hauser more than Grant. I get it, like in the vacuum of a week in the NBA, you go with like the hotter hand or who's the better contributing player. But we need Grant Williams to be playoff Grant Williams again by the playoffs, which is again smooth brain take. That's obvious, but it's very worrying and concerning that at the same time he's nowhere close to that, and at the same time we're starting to have conversations about, well, we've got Hauser, so that's fine. It's not fine. Like, we need Grant to be solid again sooner rather than later. Should we talk about Jason Tatum just for a little bit longer? I just feel like we haven't done his game justice. Really, really slow start to begin the game. Like I said, I was a little worried because with the absences, we needed Tatum to be like heliocentric Tatum. He wasn't really in this game. Made a few good passes early to find other guys, good open looks, including Sam Hauser early in this one, but really like wasn't getting into his offense as far as his own personal scoring particularly well, and looked sluggish with his attempts at the rim, with getting into his step back three. He just wasn't really finding it. Comes out in the second half and is like, we're not losing this game. Absolutely, we're not losing this game, and just like completely laid the smack down. And he made the Pistons defense just look like a sieve, and he's just like this beautifully soft flower just trickling through the sieve, getting to the rim, scoring at will. Spoonie, well, I mean, you were getting excited in our Slack during this game over Tatum. What were your thoughts on his performance?
Just the fact that he could just flip the switch and then no one could stay in front of him. And I thought he got fouled on a couple of the layups, tough layups that he finished. I mean, he was just going so strong to the rack. Like, it's frustrating because when he does that, it's like, man, he was coasting so bad in that first half. But I think he had 5 assists in the first half and then didn't get another assist until that or I guess he had 4 in the first half and then didn't get another assist until that oop to Rob in the middle of the fourth quarter. And it wasn't because he was playing bad. It's just because in the third quarter, he was just relentlessly driving to the rack and scoring. And then once he got a couple of those to go, he started getting to the step back, and that was money too. So 11 rebounds too against a tough rebounding team with Isaiah Stewart and Duran. So I just thought he was awesome on both ends. He had that crazy block too on Ivy, who's an incredible athlete in his own right. And he just got up and swatted that thing to the moon. So he was awesome. Clearly the best player on either team, and then some, like several tiers above everybody, bar maybe Rob Williams.
I feel like he did this to the Pistons last game as well. Where he did. Yeah. And they have the ex-Celtics coach, right? What's his name? Jerome Allen. Yeah. And there was a story afterwards about like, double him, and then Tatum's just chirping back to him. It's like, doesn't matter, bro. And he has that. And I feel like sometimes he needs to not get a few of those calls because he gets angry, and he was just relentlessly attacking and then kind of just barking at the other team. Just being like, I'm bigger, stronger. That spin move where he goes left, spins back the other way, and then he's pretty much at the rim. The stark difference between the first quarter and the third quarter, which is why when he's not playing well and he's not playing aggressive, it can be quite frustrating because it's very obvious the difference in play style and the force that he plays with when he does flip the switch. Yeah, he was making them look like a G League team in that third quarter, and it's a great feeling when the other team's just kind of like, no one's saying like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Like complaining at each other. They're just kind of just looking around, looking for a spiritual entity to save them.
Well, he handled those. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say he did a really great job. That they threw a double at him in the corner and no one came to him. No. And then after that, I thought he did an awesome job handling the doubles too, because that, you start turning the ball over on double teams, all of a sudden 9-point leads 4, and then it's tricky, but he did a really good job. Found D White for a 3, and then just like splitting them at times. It was great.
So the mistress Then JT, some effective and very physical rebounding from Rob Williams, really the story in this one. The only other takeaway I had from a fairly innocuous game, really, like with February against a well below 500 team, our defense, the Celtics defense against the Pistons pick and roll offense was, I talked about Tatum creating a sieve out of the Pistons defense a second ago. It seemed problematic for the Celtics, and particularly, and this again, obvious, but when Rob Williams was off the floor, Horford, I think, was victimized by that pick and roll attack by the Pistons on quite a few occasions. Jake, any concerns walking away from that one, or do you just take that as a commensurate lack of effort from the Celtics, given the portion of the schedule that we're at?
I do wonder if the bingo.
Yeah, cat
alert. I do wonder how much of the drop defense with Al Horford we will see come playoff time, because if this was an important game, there is no reason to not switch every pick and roll on this Pistons team. Ivy is probably the only one that's going to probably get a step consistently on Al that you worry about actually finishing at the rim. Even then, Ivy's had his issues kind of, being consistent in isolation this season. So I wonder, when it gets to the playoffs, are we just going to be switching a lot more often? Or are we going to be tighter on the coverage? Is Al going to be closer to the level? Because there's a chasm of space when these guys are coming off the pick and roll. So when you get to the playoffs, one of these can be tighter on their drop. Al's going to be up more, and then are they just going to switch more often? Because for a lot of situations, I trust Al still in isolation against pretty much most of the Eastern Conference. So I think it's twofold. Just it's chill for Al. Just get your hands back there, stick them up, and hope they kind of miss those 12 to 14 footers, which they did a lot of today.
Well, I think we can move on from the game unless you've got any thoughts on any other portion of this one, Spoonie or Jake. But I think we hit on everything that is relevant given where we're at of the season, right?
I'm glad they won.
Some trade deadline stuff.
Trade for Boyan, dude. He's a baller.
Hell yeah! Is that even
He's
possible?
Good.
Yeah, he can cook.
Yeah, he's incredible. Well, here is, just to move on, a quote from Stephen A. Smith. He says, quote, "By the way, I'm hearing that Kevin Durant is on the verge of potentially being moved. Obviously, we've all been speculating about that he may be moved. I'm hearing Boston is making some calls. Keep your eye on Jaylen Brown. Keep your eye on that." That's courtesy of Stephen A. Smith. Jake, Spoonie, I'll throw it out there, and one of you guys can throw it down. Any substance to this at all?
There probably is some substance in far as someone on the Nets side told Stephen A that we called Boston again about how realistic a JB trade is. That doesn't mean we're offering KD. That doesn't mean Boston said, yeah, it's still on the table. It literally just means that someone in the Nets organization told Stephen A, may not have been the person who made the call, that someone in a meeting said, oh, look, Jaylen Brown's one of those guys. If we did decide to move it, that could be one of those guys. You can't trust anything from Stephen A is solid reporting. You gotta stick with only the big dogs in these types of situations, the Shamses and the Warriors. And even then, you got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt to figure out who benefits with certain information being leaked. And if you've noticed, Brad runs whatever the opposite of a leaky ship is, tight ship. Tight-lipped ship. Great work.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably be quick with this. I suppose, Spoonie, I'll throw it to you this way. Before the season started, when all of this sort of talk emerged, I think we all agreed in unison that we wouldn't trade JB for Kevin Durant, just because almost we'd prefer to lose with Jaylen Brown than we would to break up the team and try and win with Kevin Durant. Given what we've seen from KD and JB throughout the course of this season so far, Spoonie, has your mindset on that changed at all?
Hey, how many points is Durant averaging the last 2 weeks? 0, because he's hurt and he's 34 years old and he makes $50 million. No, my stance is absolutely not changed. Get it out of here. Stephen A. Smith, he's a genius. He knows how to get clicks. He knows how to get views. That's what he's doing here. I just get out of here with Durant, dude. He's obviously a better player than Jaylen Brown. but he's 34 and he's just getting hurt a lot. Like, can he last 4 rounds in the playoffs? Like, I don't know. Probably not.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yeah,
They're
sure.
all like inadvertent contact injuries, people falling into his knee. It's not like his body's breaking down or anything. He's getting himself into little car accidents out there on the court.
Yeah, but when you're like 7 feet tall and 170 pounds, like you're just a lot more prone to that. And like maybe when he was 25, someone falling on him that way, it wouldn't have torn whatever or wouldn't have hurt him. But now that he's older, he's nursing a bunch of injuries. He doesn't go to the rim anymore at all. Like I think at last I checked, he was averaging like 4 attempts at the rim or something ridiculously low like that. He's on the downslope. He's still an incredible player. He's still top 5 player, I think, pretty easily. But he's one more fall the wrong way from like being done for the season, dude. Like it is just an absurd risk. Our window is open for half a decade right now. And if you trade for Durant, that closes real quick. Plus, with the contracts, you'd have to probably include Derek White or Malcolm Brogdon. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If we get a notification on Friday morning and it's Jalen and Gallo, I can't be mad at Brad for pulling the trigger on that. When you see how good the Celtics team is, and you're like, oh, the bench, like Tatum off the court is an issue for the offense. You know what solves all of those problems and then adds a whole nother, how many points on your offensive rating is Kevin Durant, who's like the best shooter of all time at 7 foot tall, while also being a pretty significantly better defender than Jalen. I wouldn't be upset with Brad. I wouldn't be upset with him.
If that happens, I will sell myself on that within minutes. Yeah, but for now, man, I'm just so worried about him getting hurt. And then you have $50 million sitting on the bench. And if you trade Brogdon, or rather Gallo and JB, I'm pretty sure that raises the tax bill even higher. So does that mean we can't add another piece as well? And so I don't know, man. That just seems so incredibly risky when you're literally the championship favorite right now.
I wouldn't be mad at Brad, but I'd just be upset because I'm like ride or die with the Jays, right? Like I said, I prefer to lose with the Jays than win with Kevin Durant, and I will die on that hill. Although, like you said, Spoonie, I will convince myself otherwise if the trade does happen. But I feel like it's pretty unlikely to at this point. Let's move on. Yeah. Grant Williams is wanted by the Heat and the Cavs. We've got a couple of tweets here. This is from NBA Central.
What a picture.
The Miami Heat continue to express interest in Grant Williams per Greg Silverlander. And then we've got Chris Fedor tweeting, the NBA deadline is days away. The Cavs have checked in on Grant Williams, among others. Is there anything to this, guys? Do we even care? Like Grant Williams being wanted by other teams, given how many gripes we have for him internally, feels funny to me. Do you think there's any, like obviously there's some smoke here. Spoonie, do you think there's any fire?
I certainly think teams are interested in Grant Williams. NBA front offices are not nearly as reactionary as fans. Like they see Grant, he's a young player. He's still shooting 40% from 3. He proved he could guard Giannis. Like it's not crazy to me that 2 other East contenders are interested in him. Please do not trade him to the Cavs. He is exactly what the Cavs need on that team, dude. He would, I really think, make them a more legitimate threat in the playoffs because they really need a wing defender who can shoot 3. So, I definitely think there's smoke, and I definitely think I wouldn't be shocked if Brad is entertaining offers for Grant. I don't see what Cleveland has to give us.
Yeah.
Or Miami, really. Yeah.
And Miami's even worse, but it's like anyone in the sub 10 million range, unless you start looking at some of their bigger contracts, like Chetty Osman, Okoro, Rubio. There's nothing there that really Taco Fall apparently still on the roster technically for Cleveland. So I don't really see it unless you're getting back like a pick, which Cleveland doesn't have any of. So I don't sure I see the mechanics of this deal and on how. And you kind of run into the same issue. Like whatever you get back from Cleveland on this roster, like even if it's Karis LeVert, which wouldn't happen because he's a free agent after this year, and he's making 18 million, so to throw in even more. I think you're gonna be wishing you had another wing on top of whoever you bring back anyway. So I really see it. I always kind of like Lamar Stevens. So if you get like Stevens and Osman, but like that's not a deal that Brad's doing. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw. I talked about it earlier, but Grant, his defense on guys like Kevin Durant and Giannis, like that's a very rare and unique skill. There are very few guys in the league who can do that and then turn around, run to the other end of the court, run to the corner, and jack up threes at a 40% clip. Like he is in a slump at the moment, but he is extremely valuable to this team. He is a role player as far as the X's and O's basketball side of things. He is a starter from the team culture standpoint, in my opinion, and there would be ripples across the team. Obviously, I'm speculating here. If he were to be traded, I do think that personally and chemistry-wise, Grant Williams would be missed to some degree. Spoonie, do you buy into that at all? Like, is the team so set on winning that they jettison Grant Williams off there for, I don't know, like an OG and an OB? Obviously, we're throwing in multiple picks in that scenario. Is that going to have a negative effect on the team if Grant Williams is sent out in some form of a trade?
I think if it's a guy like OG, the players will get it. You know,
Sure.
It's like, oh, well, we got OG and Anunoby there. You know, Tatum and Jalen will be like, all right, that works.
Yeah.
We
drive to
love
the
you,
airport.
Grant, but sorry, buddy.
Yeah, Grant,
your passport.
I love coming over for Settlers of Catan. Funny guy. I dubbed him the Vibe Lord last year, the Vibe Master. I agree with you, Ben. I do think that he has a special role as far as the team chemistry goes. Like every group of friends needs the guy that everybody can roast, and to know that guy loves it. And that everybody can and just feed off that. It's a roast party. Everybody loves a roast party. And Grant, I think, he's always inviting people over for said parties. So I do think chemistry-wise, it would have an impact. I don't know a lot about OG Anunoby as the person. I just know that he hits dagger threes in our eyeballs every time we play them.
Gets dunked on by Jaylen Brown in the bubble.
One
of my favorite dunks of all time. All right. Well, we all love Grant. We all hate the slump that he's in, and we all hope that it ends soon. Let's move on. Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report tweeted out a list of, I suppose it was part of an article, so go Google that, a list of potential buyout candidates. So I'm going to run down the list now, and just stop me if you hear a name that you think is of importance to the Celtics. John Wall. Mason Plumlee.
Stop.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you might stop me there. What do you think?
Go Spoons.
I don't love Plumlee. I think he's a bizarre player to watch. Shoots his free throws lefty now. But look, you need to eat some minutes, give Rob and Al a rest. Like, Plums is a better player than Blake Griffin at this point. He hits the glass. He sets hard screens. He can protect the rim some. Like, he would be a great third big. I think he's a clear upgrade on Luke Cornett as well. So yeah, give me Plumlee on a buyout, dude. I think that'd actually be a pretty good get. He's a good passer too. He can like move the ball and like hit cutters and stuff. So I would love Plumlee on a buyout. I actually think they can probably get something in a trade for him, even if it's like a second or two.
Yeah, Plumlee would be awesome as a third big.
Yeah.
Cornett's been solid, but Plumlee would be like a very clear upgrade over Cornett. Yeah, exactly. The offense, I think, would probably be the underrated part. He can grab the ball and go, push it in transition, find guys. He's up to 60% from the line, which is impressive because he was like sub 40 earlier in the year, and he switched to the left hand.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like there's
The
videos
Ben
of
Simmons method.
It's bad. That's what Ben Simmons needs to do is change hands. There's videos of Plumlee shooting like 12 footers and the bench of opposing teams like recoiling in horror. It doesn't matter really what that looks like. He's still a solid player and I think would be an upgrade. But yeah, if you can get him in a buyout, definitely something to do. I think Cornett was out sick tonight. Was that why he was out tonight?
Ankle sprain.
He got hurt.
Sick.
That's Jalen, yeah.
Yeah, probably should have led with that information. Sorry, listeners. All right. Well, I want to say about Mason Plumlee that he is absolutely the unsung hero of my fantasy team. Doing very well there. Moving on. Rest of the list here. Serge Ibaka. No.
Bow.
Russell Westbrook?
God, no. Talk about messing up the vibes.
Yeah, not a culture piece.
I'm
for you, Jake?
tempted.
No,
I'm
come
tempted.
on.
No, absolutely.
He's
not.
been pretty solid this year.
I
can't lie.
know. Coming
Yeah.
off the bench for
But
give him 15 minutes a night. Like
He could start in
there's-
Maine.
Yeah.
That's for Derek Rose, Corey Joseph, Nerlens Noel.
Stopping you on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
He's not great anymore. I think injuries have kind of sapped what was his greatest strength, was his athleticism, ability to move his feet, protect the rim. But again, just big man depth. Like, I think he can eat some minutes for you, and I think he's probably better than Luke at this point. But he hasn't played much this year, has he? I haven't really heard much about him playing. He's
No, I don't
on
think so.
Detroit, isn't he?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they
I-
cut to him on the broadcast tonight,
Yeah.
but and they were like, "Yeah, this dude's just sitting here waiting to be bought out or traded or something."
Yeah,
But
because
I
he
would-
was he was part of that like Knicks
Yeah,
deal.
the
that-
Burks.
the Burks, all that kind of stuff, where everybody was hoping to fit those players into their TPEs, and then the Pistons swooped in. I'm with you, Carl. The Westbrook love experience, that's a wild one.
I
That's
know.
wild.
I was
know.
surprised, really surprised by that.
Like,
But,
where does he fit in? We go in the guard rotation. How is
I
he
know.
getting
He
minutes over
doesn't.
Blake?
He doesn't. It's tantalizing. Like, it's Russell Westbrook,
Big
but I
man.
know that's dumb. That's like a smooth brain take. I get it.
We're full of those here on the first.
Yeah.
Look.
Exactly.
That's
Well,
what
yeah,
we're all
we'll
about.
allow anything. Yeah.
Terrence Ross.
See that for a buyout.
Yeah.
He's not playing this year either. From what I've seen from the Magic this year.
Not really.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, finally. How many years was it like, oh, Terrence Ross, part of the trade to come back to the Celtics? And it didn't really ever make sense because he was making like a pretty good chunk of change. Makes sense now if you can't get a wing on the market. A veteran dude can kind of come off screens for you. He's probably pretty washed, and we would be disappointed by his actual impact. But I think that it would be solid for a buyout guy.
He's shooting 38% from three this year.
Yeah.
On 4 attempts a game, playing 22 minutes. He's only played like 40 games, or I guess he's played 42 games.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
way more than I thought.
Yeah, he's getting some run. Give me Terrence Ross, even if it's just like I guess we're not going to play the Magic again this year, but like just so I don't have to worry about him going somewhere else and torching us. Like the Heat will sign him, I'm sure, and he'll go like
Yeah.
4 of 8 in a playoff game against them.
I'm going to lose sleep over that comment, Spoonie. Okay, RJ Hampton, Will Barton. I'm not getting any positive vibes from either of those two.
Barton, you could talk me into. I always kind of liked him, but I was seeing some really, really rough advanced numbers on Barton this year, like
Yep.
1 percentile on like value to a team kind of stuff. But he was always like, confidence guy off the bench, get you buckets, tall. It's always good.
Good dimensions.
I kind of have a soft spot for RJ Hampton. He's athletic. He showed some range. I know he is not good. He's really not.
I wanted him to be good because he came from the NBL. So
Yeah, I
anytime
know.
he came from
Yeah.
any guys from the NBL.
The Breakers, right?
New Zealand,
exactly.
though, so
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Say what you will about that.
Here's my thought on RJ. If you trade Pritchard and you have a roster spot and there's no obvious veteran buyout guy, he kind of can replace like here's a deep bench guy maybe you can develop into a decent role player in the next couple of years or something. Like I wouldn't mind taking a flyer and see like, hey, maybe if we give him a little more structure than he had on Orlando, maybe he can turn into sort of an Avery Bradley type where he just, plays decent perimeter defense and knocks down open threes. But yeah, meh.
Yeah, meh. Last two, and these come with qualifying caveat style additions. Jay Crowder, and then in brackets, unknown if Phoenix has interest in it, though. And then Josh Richardson, in brackets, mentions that the Spurs are so far below the salary floor, they may not buy him out, but teams are watching that situation closely. For me, it's Josh Richardson. Yeah. Obviously, there's a connection with the existing roster based on his position within it a year ago. Great, I think, contributor off the bench, can shoot a bit, can defend a bit, can do a little bit of everything, knows the scheme. To me, it's a no-brainer. It just comes down to whether or not he's actually going to be available as a buyout candidate. He's more likely to be acquired through a trade, from what I can tell.
If the Picasso of the trade machine has managed to infiltrate the Spurs organization, I'm talking about Bill Simmons, talked about a Ben Simmons trade to San Antonio for like into that space. Actually makes so much sense. for a lot of reasons. It would make sense for San Antonio to take on some bad money with some assets, and so that maybe that leads them to buying out Josh Richardson. He would be perfect. He would be perfect. And something to note, I learned from the Winning Plays podcast. Danger Cart was speaking about how you can give the DPE from the Gallo injury, which is like the 3.2 million. You can offer that to buy out guys, which is more than the minimum salary that you usually can, which just gives you a bit of an advantage. Now, I don't know around the league how many teams actually have DPEs. Can't be that many. But yeah, Richardson coming back, he like literally would be perfect on this team.
I would be shocked if they can't find a trade for him. Though. But the Spurs seem like the type of team that do like players and agents solids. So if they don't find a trade for him, I bet he gets bought out because they're just that type of organization where they're like, yeah, we'll do you a favor, we'll buy you out, and then you can go play on another team. I don't think Crowder's getting bought out, right?
No.
Like that seems crazy.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
One you didn't mention, which again I'm not sure on the reality of it. I've seen mixed reports on Twitter, like Gordon Hayward.
Okay.
I'm in, dude. Give me Gordo.
If you
back.
get Gordo, can you imagine? Maybe this is how we break he breaks the curse. It's the full circle. But dude, if you get Hayward on a buyout to play your 12 to 15 minutes, he's on the bubble wrap program that half our bloody team's on at this point. He would be just unreal on this team as like that 12 to 15 minute guy.
What if he walks the curse right back into the door? Then we're right back where we started.
Oh no,
that's a problem.
Finally got rid of it.
That's a problem. But now it's not so bad because it's not $30 million getting injured. Because he wasn't getting anyone else injured; he was just getting himself injured.
It's true. Yeah, I feel like he took the curse on in sort of a hero's role and then took it to another franchise. So I suppose now we're ready to welcome him back. Sorry, Spoonie, what were you going to say?
No, that's my fault. I heard some talk that Drummond might get bought out. What are your thoughts on Drumbo as like a third center? You know, just eating up, cleaning the glass and a couple dunks here and there, and then plays like 15 minutes a game or 13 minutes a game or something like that.
Yeah, I'd take him over Luke Cornett, and he's kind of been in that Ish Smith, Karis LeVert role of torching the Celtics at admittedly earlier portions of his career, but he's always been a guy that I've been weary of whenever he's the starting center for whatever opponent we're playing. Having him come off the bench in certain situations, in certain scenarios in the playoffs as well, where a rebound is a must offensively or defensively, that's a good tool to have. And then just to keep him off any opposing roster, I think is the Greg Monroe effect, if you will. A good reason to acquire him. So I'm all for it, as much as I like Lukey 4 blocks.
I feel like Drummond is another guy like Terrence Ross, where it was every deadline and off season, not just Celtics fans, but it was a national drum beat that wanted people to trade the Celtics to trade for Drummond when it was like Tice as the big man. And I was like, when he was making 18 million, and could not be a more nonsensical idea was to trade for Drummond when he was making $18 million. And it was very clear that as soon as he came off that, he was going to be worth the minimum for the rest of his career. Yeah. But on said minimum, I wouldn't even give him the full 3.2 DPE. That's gone too far for the big drum dog. But yeah, get him on the boards. Why not? Another weird
drum
free throw shooter.
6 fouls.
Again, dimensions.
Yeah.
Large.
Massive.
Big dimensions guy.
Yeah.
Big fan. All right. To wrap up here, we're going to do it quickly because we want to try and keep it under 1 hour here for the first time, maybe ever. You guys ran a great segment on last week's podcast. How worried are you? And talking about various trends, mostly negative ones, players and stats and trends sliding downwards, and how worried are we as fans that they're going to continue moving in that direction? So I pose to you guys, how worried are you rival additions? What rumored trades from rival teams, other contenders, particularly in our division and or conference, most worry you heading into the trade deadline? We'll start with you, Jake.
The only thing that really worries me is the KD to an East team trade. I don't think there is a team, though, that really has the type of package that the Nets would kind of jump at. Mm-hmm. This is why I said the kind of last podcast. So, like, if that starts to get momentum before the trade deadline, like, and Philly's about to trade for KD based off like a Maxi as the centerpiece. They don't really have. I think they don't really have picks as well. It doesn't make sense to me that the Nets would accelerate this if they don't have to. I think the team's still pretty solid. That's when you have to jump in with like a Jalen trade, because a Sixers team with KD, Harden, and Embiid is a pretty serious concern. That's really my only concern. I don't think there's that's where I'm terrified. That's like a full 10 Ben Simmons DEFCON 1 situation.
What about Kevin Love, Darius Garland, and Okoro for Durant? Do you think the Nets would be interested in that? Mitchell, Mobley, Jared Allen, Durant.
Oh my lord,
that's pretty nasty.
Again, yeah. Any of those East teams able to pull that off is very much a concern.
Yeah. Did anyone mention the Heat already? Because the Heat acquiring KD, they've got some all right. This is not necessarily on the young side, but I'm already so terrified in terms of through the scope of this segment. How worried are you? I'm just perpetually worried about the Heat.
He's constantly out of 10.
That's what I was going to bring up. And Z Gamer actually just dropped it in the chat. Like, dude, if the Heat get like Jay Crowder, they're going to be so annoying to play in the playoffs. And they'll get him for like nothing somehow too. That's how they'll be like Luka Jovic and a Deadman or something for Jay Crowder, and it just be like, really, dude, now we got to deal with Jay like fouling people and making threes randomly. Like, I give me a 7 out of 10 on the Heat getting a guy like Crowder on the worry scale.
That's pretty worried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
Like, I disagree in that I'm not super worried, but I agree in that if they were to upgrade and basically replace the PJ Tucker spot that they lost, it would be an issue. But I still think it makes them pretty much as good as they were last year.
Fair, yeah.
And I still think that the Celtics, when the chips are down, are better than they were last year. So the Heat probably still give us a really uncomfortable 10 days and 6 games, but would be shocking for us to actually lose the series. So, yeah, I prefer him to go there than to Milwaukee.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of the ones I had on my list as well, is the Bucks. I mean, I'm just going to bundle them all in together. Essentially, the Bucks or the Sixers acquiring any legitimate Jay stoppers, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum stoppers. So whether that's Crowder, whether that's somehow OG Anunoby, they're already good teams. That's why they're nipping at our heels in the seedings. The major advantage that we have is like, you ask the question before every matchup, who's going to stop the Jays? And typically the answer is like no one, which is why we usually win those matchups. If they acquire a Crowder, not saying that he's like an incredible wing stopper or anything, especially at this point in his career, but he certainly helps. OG Anunoby certainly helps in that case. That kind of acquisition for that caliber of a team in our conference terrifies me. And I'm sleeping very few hours per night currently as a result of that. Do any of you guys think that's at all possible or likely as we approach the trade deadline?
It goes back to, if there's like, you get a whiff of the Sixers or the Bucks able to pull off the OG Anunoby trade, you have to outbid them, because the Bucks have no picks, the Sixers have no picks. Maxi's really the only asset on either team that would like outbid, like at least grants like a interesting young player that the Raptors would be interested in bringing onto the team, and then because that kind of signifies it doing a bit of a rebuild. But outside of OG, like, I'm not too worried about Crowder. The last time he gave the Jays trouble was in the bubble 3 years ago. He hasn't played for 6 months. That was when we were playing Daniel Tice and Shemi and Kemba Walker with one knee.
Wanamaker.
Talk about how incredible the Jays are. Go back and look at that
team.
really not that deep. The OG part would be a worry. But even then, I feel like the Jays have really gotten better at attacking OG lately. And this is the good thing about having 2 Jays. There's one OG Anunoby. The Sixers currently have 0 people to guard them. So unless they bring in 2, Middleton's looked pretty solid since he's kind of come back. That's the only team I'm worried about at all kind of at the moment. Carl earlier, I can't make myself worried about the Sixers. I can't make myself worried about the Sixers. I know they won a lot of games lately. I watched them blow a 20-point lead to the Knicks last night. I know that we're the Celtics and we've been doing bad things lately as well. But I can't be scared of the Sixers in like a full series. We can dive into that another point, but 7-game series, no chance.
I think OG's going west. Like
Yeah,
Memphis,
like the Grizzly, like yeah.
or New
Certainly hope so.
Orleans have so much ammo, dude.
Yeah.
Like they can just so easily outbid the Bucks or Sixers. So I think you're looking at one of these lower level wings. And I expect the Jays can roast Crowder at this point in his career. Yeah, I'm with you guys. So I'm not sure who's out there. The Bucks have like nothing to trade at this point. They really don't. At least the Sixers have Maxey, and you can dangle Maxey, I think, for a really good return. So
they would. I just don't think they would move Maxey right
so.
now. Yeah,
I don't think so either. Yeah. He's good.
And like what the Bucks are looking from the packages I've seen reported, it's Grayson Allen is kind of the piece that they move. So it's not like the Bucks are kind of adding.
Yeah, he plays like
he plays a lot for them.
Yeah,
and he's a really good shooter. As much as he was abused by Jaylen Brown, I've got the Jaylen Brown just like dusting him with Grayson Allen falling back on his butt, burned into my eyeballs.
Oh yes,
absolutely beautiful. That game too by Jaylen Brown. Go back and watch those highlights. They're glorious. That they're losing something in Grayson. Like he's a 40+% 3-point shooter off movement, attacks, closeouts.
Yeah,
offensively, Crowder has always been very streaky from the 3-point line. He can get if he gets hot against you in the wrong series, it can suck. But yeah, he hasn't played for a long time. And how old? He's turning 33 in like 120 days. Because I looked it up last night.
Nice.
Yeah, he's going like this, and the Jays have kind of been going like that since the bubble. So I'm not too worried about a Crowder deal. But ideally he goes to a non-competitor just because. I bet it's better.
All right, so overall, it sounds like we're mid-tier worried at best, which, and that's on average. You guys are actually bringing me down, which I appreciate. Thank you very much for that. Very quickly before we wrap up here in a minute, the Celtics are playing the Sixers at TD Garden Wednesday night. Very important game. We're coming up against, a huge rival, at least within the confines of this season. There's seeding at stake. How do you think this one plays out, Spoonie?
I just feel like we really match up well against the Sixers, and the Green with Envy guys were talking about the Sixers, and Will was like, Greg was like, Tobias Harris resurgence, and Will just like laughed in his face about it. Yeah, and like I don't think Greg was saying that. He was just saying like that's the narrative, and yeah, like Tobias has just nothing for the Jays, dude.
Yeah.
So you got to hope, as long as the refs aren't effectively handing Harden and Embiid a whole ton of like 30 free points at the line, which could very much happen. I think we probably win this game, and we'll get up for it. I don't think we have to worry about the effort stuff. We love playing Philly.
The only thing that worries me a little bit is it doesn't feel like we can have Marcus back. I watched the game on delayed today, so I didn't see anything from Twitter. Did we see anything Marcus related?
No. I think he's out to the All-Star break.
Yeah. And that's why we hit last podcast. It feels like he's on the Rob Williams program now, as it's become very evident about how important he is to the success of his team. So that worries me because he is the best Embiid doubler in the NBA.
Yes.
Like there's no one that times that stuff up better. Obviously, we have the Embiid smart brouhahas, which we all enjoy. So we'll be missing that element. They've been really good though lately. The Embiid Harden pick and roll, which has been really, really dominant, is something that I think the Celtics could just play straight up in this game and the games in regular season. But when they come playoffs, you switch it, because if you're going over the Harden Embiid pick and roll, he just hits Embiid on this like 12, 14-foot jump shot, and he's making like 55% of them, versus if you switch, get the Embiid to back down, that's when the Celtics start doubling and swarming and force those Embiid turnovers. I wonder if they don't go to that tomorrow just because it's a regular season. But on the other end, I would like to see the offense really get moving, because they don't have the perimeter defenders to really give us trouble if we're locked in and playing with pace and getting the ball moving. If we get stuck, they have stout defenders. PJ Tucker, James Harden is, not a good defender as he is. He is big. So like if they're kind of playing slow, they have the kind of the burliness to stick with some of the Celtics. It does take an actual focus to whip the ball around and start making cracks in the Philly defense, because they are ranked like top 5 in D this year. You have to get Embiid moving. You like they did in game 1 of the regular season. It was a relentless attack. So that's what I'm hoping to see. I usually just don't care about the Sixers just because it's a regular season game. I think they could lose it. We'll see.
I care about the seeding at this point,
Yeah.
given how tightly packed everything is there up the top. Yeah, I think the focus will be there, and they have a reputation to uphold in that they own the Sixers, and they have for years now. And I think with that comes a confidence, and we have dominated these guys, through recent history. And I think that confidence will result in that free-flowing offense that you kind of described. The pick-and-roll defense today against the Pistons, doesn't necessarily bode well for how that will look defending that Harden and Embiid pick-and-roll, but I think they'll just be more generally up for it, like you said, as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. All right, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said earlier, we are live streaming that NBA trade deadline kicking off about 1 hour before the trade deadline comes about. Come and join us for that one. It's going to be lots of fun, and we'll talk a little Celtics Sixers during the lulls, if there are any, as far as the trade landscape is concerned. Thanks to everyone in the chat here, or if you're watching or listening later, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Spoonie, Jake, love your work. Until next time, go Celtics.